Hello, everyone, and welcome to Discover Rising Tides, How the Outside Makes the Inside Better. I am Jeanne Gallagher, and I am here with Denise. And Denise is our menopause mentor, so we'll put that out there first. And we are really on an interesting topic. So tell us, we're going to talk about number 2. So if you haven't heard number 1, go back to the show before and watch number 1. So here's number 2.
Okay, Jean, you just said we are going to talk about number 2. Okay, I'm going to help us go back to where we actually were. Okay, so the first, we are talking about the 4 agreements for menopause. At the last, we talked about the first agreement, number 1, which was being impeccable with your word. And I think it's really important just to reiterate that your words have power. The words you say to others, the words you say to yourself, use them to lead yourself back to you, who you are, who you want to be, who you are becoming. So, moving right along, this week, agreement number 2 is don't take anything personally. Now, in the book, The 4 Agreements, the author Don Miguel Ruiz, he's written this from ancient kind of traditional history of, I don't remember if it was the Incans or the Aztecs. So very different perspective. What he's written, and really this was supposed to be a way of finding a path to freedom in our lives. I've turned it towards making it a path to freedom through menopause and the transition and into this next season of life.
Which
So,
honestly is incredibly applicable.
really is. It is. And it just, I was rereading the book. I found it on my bookshelf. And I didn't remember. I was like, what was the last agreement? What was the last agreement? So I reread the book and I just saw it in a very different light, right? When I read it, when I was in my 30s or maybe early 40s, I was in a different phase. I was in a different mindset. So it's interesting how as you get older, your experiences really change the way you think about things. So don't take anything personally. We're going to apply that to your body. Okay, your body is not betraying you, right? It's not becoming, it doesn't want to be somebody else. It doesn't want to do, it doesn't want to be, younger you. What it's doing is it's actually communicating, which kind of goes back to the impeccable word, but it's communicating. So you're doing the things that you're supposed to do, right? You're exercising, maybe enough, maybe not. You're eating, maybe well, maybe not enough, right? You're trying to do the things, right? As we're going through stress, career, whatever it might be. But we know our weight could be creeping up, we're not sleeping, all the things. One of the things, what I think is important to notice, it's not your fault. So that's don't take it personally. It's not something you are actually doing or not doing, right? It's just what's happening. So if your partner says to you, you seem different lately, or like my husband said, arms on my shoulders, Denise, something's going on with you and we got to figure it out. Still think he said you're driving me crazy, but he says not. But
It's
when
what you heard.
that's what I heard. Like that's part of my mind. It was 17 years ago, so that I remember what I remember. Right. Or when a colleague comes up to you and asks if you're okay, and you're like, "Yeah, I'm fine." Catch yourself snapping, right? These things sting. Like they hurt. Like when Mark said that to me, and I know he came to me very lovingly, but it hurt. Like I didn't want to take offense because I knew where it was coming from, but it was hard at the same time not to take offense.
But also, isn't that partly because you didn't know it was happening?
Absolutely.
That's the piece that's the part that's so challenging, is that you have somebody telling you that something's not right, but you don't notice a thing because things are transitioning and you might not be aware. So you do
And I
take
think,
that personally, like, I'm I didn't notice, so now it's also my fault because I didn't
right,
notice.
again,
I could have fixed
here's
it
the
if I
thing.
knew, right?
Right, here's the thing. They're not wrong,
Right.
but neither are you, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Right, because you're seeing the way, you act, respond to others, from your point of view. And you may know something's going on, but you can't put your finger on it. You don't think it's menopause or perimenopause or whatever, somewhere along that line. Um, Hormonal changes affect our mood. It affects our patience and our emotional bandwidth, right? That's not something you necessarily feel,
Mhm.
right? Until you start to actually recognize it. And sometimes we do need someone to say, hey, something's going on over there, right? So, and instead of taking it personally, it's because if we take this personally, what's happening to us, how other people are seeing us. But now keep in mind, this can really affect you in your home relationships with your
Mhm.
spouse, with your parents, with your kids, with your coworkers, with your
Mhm.
boss, right? And if you're not noticing this, they're noticing something, right? This could just spiral out of hand,
And it
right?
can
And it
create some unneeded tension.
absolutely,
Mhm.
which you don't need, because then that just increases your cortisol levels, which it's keeping you awake, not making your melatonin, and oh my gosh, it escalates into something bigger and bigger, right? So what if instead of seeing this as being defensive or be embarrassed, you see this as information?
Mhm.
So again, it's nothing personal. It's nothing you are doing um consciously, right? But your body's doing something you've never experienced before.
Mhm.
And maybe it's saying, hey, let's take a look at this, right? Because these signs, these signals, um, are there to protect you. And if you're ignoring them, they just, again, spiral, they escalate and spiral out of control. And then at some point, you are saying things and doing things. And again, it's not that you need to take it personally, but now somebody else may be taking what you're saying and how they're reacting personally.
Right.
And they
Yeah.
need to listen to what we're talking about here too.
Exactly. Exactly. So what are do you think are would be some of the signals that need to be recognized?
So I think first and foremost is to be able to step back and accept, listen to what people are saying. No judgment, not on them, not on you.
Mhm.
And just hear what they're saying. The other thing then, that's one thing, you need to kind of hear what other people are experiencing from you. But then you have to take that and try to decipher what is going on with me. How do I feel?
Mhm.
And when I act out, why am I doing that? What's the situation that I'm in? Am I not sleeping, so I'm tired? Do I have, my mind's just not thinking clear? What's going on? Again, these are things that they're not personal in a way that you should take it personally like it's your fault, but it's personal in a way that it means something to you because you're the person experiencing it.
Mhm. Yeah. And in just that pause and thought, let's Could there be something you know, it's funny, these words that have come up in the podcast that we've just recorded are coming up here for me too. So having the curiosity of saying, what could be different? And taking that time to reflect on that could be and listen to the answers that you're getting from yourself.
Absolutely. We don't take enough time to sit back, reflect, right? We talk about journaling. People either love it or they hate it.
Mm,
They think it's like, when you're in high school writing, Dear Diary, today I did blah, 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 blah. But journaling really is about getting your emotions out. And sometimes we can, as we're writing in a journal, the emotions that come out may surprise us.
mm, yeah.
So I think, and to kind of wrap this piece up, instead of taking these things personally, you can actually take it seriously to help yourself move forward, understand what's going on in your body, when to search for information, or that's an opening to search for information, good information,
Mhm.
and then to be able to decipher what your next step is.
And then find somebody like Denise to talk to about it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Denise. This is such an important topic, and I'm looking forward to number number three for those watching YouTube. Number three and number four for
Yes,
um, the four agreements of menopause. So thank you so much.
definitely. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. This is Jeanne Gallagher at Discover Rising Tides, and I want to just take a moment to talk about my friend Denise Segal. I am honored to call her as a friend, and I'm so grateful that she gives us her insight during our shows each show and talks about healthy living, eating real food. You hear Denise say, "Eat real food" a lot. Well, she means it, and she knows what she's talking about. She is an amazing healthy living coach, curator at Living Healthy List. And if you ever have any questions about what is real food, why does it matter, how does that apply to me, how do I change, what do I need to do, how do I even create a healthy living shopping list, make sure that you call her. She is your healthy living coach, and you can find her at healthylivinglist.com. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Discover Rising Tides, How the Outside Makes the Inside Better. I am Jeanne Gallagher, and I'm excited for you all to be here. If you're listening to us on your favorite podcast platform and you'd like to see our happy faces, switch on over to YouTube and like and subscribe, and you can watch us gab at each other over there. And today's guest, I'm excited to introduce Diane Simard. Diane, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Oh, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
I am glad to. And so before we get started, I'd like you to give us a little bit about your background, and then we're going to dive in. There's so much for us to talk about.
Absolutely. I refer to myself as a life commentator, which means many things, which means I've been through a lot in life. And some of the highlights are that I was trained as a print journalist, but I did business writing for most of my career. My ex husband and I sold a business and got divorced right away afterwards. And so I started investing in startup companies, and I learned a lot. And there were some good experiences and not so good experiences. But all of that didn't matter in 2015 when I was diagnosed with stage 3 breast cancer. And that led to a transformation of me as a person. It allowed me to find my voice because what I did was I focused on what I call the intersection of mental health and cancer, and
Mm,
actually a deficiency or a lack of mental health support when it comes to cancer care. So I have now devoted my life to that. I no longer work full time, but I founded a specialty here in Denver, Colorado, at the University of Denver that trains future licensed clinical psychologists how to work with cancer patients and their caregivers. And so I'm focusing now on the next phase in that. So I refer to myself as a life commentator. I've written 3 books. I blog. I speak on this topic as often as I can, and I just really care about that this
mm.
focus on mental health needs to be a standard part of cancer care.
You know, it's interesting coming from a non-writer,
Hmm.
and there's I am a non-writer. Um, and I've embraced it too. Uh, your beginnings as a print journalist, and which involves writing and communicating to others about a subject, it took your own health journey to find your voice,
Mhm.
even though you were voicing information of other things for years, but your own voice came up during or post health issue. Isn't that interesting?
I often say the realization for me, and this came from years of really pondering this, but I was propping everybody else up my whole career, my whole life, actually. And it was being forced, facing my mortality. I had a non aggressive grade of cancer that was behaving aggressively. And so I was given the nuclear bomb treatment. Everyone agreed on my medical team that that's what should be done. But I really pondered it was that pondering your mortality, and I was just determined that the second chapter, the second half of my life was gonna be more meaningful, more peaceful, more joyful. And, this unfortunate experience really brought me so much clarity.
Mm. A lot of people that I talk to have been through something,
Mhm.
and that something that they've been through changed the course of their professional career in a way, but also their mental outlook on things. And a lot of it came through the trauma or the lack of resources in their own experience, and realized there was a void of need, and that really helped them apply their energies to fill that void. And that's exactly what you've done as well.
I was actually looking for something, and when I discovered in a conversation with my medical oncologist that she did not know of any therapists that worked with
Mm.
kinda tightly wound, high-strung business professionals like me about their cancer experience, because it was all about control, and I was so scared I was never gonna feel good again, and I I just started asking questions, and it was that training I had, that inquisitive nature that I have, that
Mhm.
is the reason I started to ask a lot of questions and had contacts and in higher education, and so I stumbled upon this, and ever since it's become my foundation, my platform, and there's something, you're right, that's so impactful, life-changing, can be about a traumatic experience, and again, it doesn't have to just be cancer, it can be death, divorce, loss of a job, all of those traumas, but this one, I just was really ready for a change, and this
Mm.
was that catalyst, that trigger that helped me do a lot of self-analyzation, asking a
Mhm.
lot of questions, and then researching these 3 books that I wrote. I uncovered some incredible answers that I would not have received had I not gone through this experience.
That's really impactful is a word that doesn't seem even to be appropriate, but the for the imagery that I got there through what you were saying is that you're this professional, w- tightly processing person is now in a situation that they have zero control and 100% dependency on others who appear to have control, but it's not tangible. There's no way to vet them to make sure that what they're saying is really true, and you have no choice but to go with what they're saying, and now you are totally out of control.
It's a great point, and thank you for bringing that up, and, there is a lot of there were a lot of times when I just felt like I needed to go with my gut, and
Mhm.
not a lot of time to make potentially life-changing quest or answers, make decisions, and I just decided I am going to listen to my inner self. I'd really never trusted myself to this degree before, but this forced me to do that. And I learned so much about who I really am. And that's been so valuable.
Mm. Yeah, and the writing the books must have been cathartic too as well.
Absolutely, it was. And there again, I was doing a lot of journaling during treatment when I was not feeling well. And I was shocked at, excuse me, how good it felt to just get it out, to put it down in words. I'm driven by words,
Mhm.
and it was so helpful and helped me kind of maintain my sanity, but also express myself because I keep going back to propping when you spend your career trying to make everybody else but yourself look good, because in my mind, it's my job to prop everyone up. Now it's my time to take care of myself
Mhm.
and to decide who I'm going to be. And thankfully, I had a cancer considered treatable, but there's
Mhm.
so many unanswerable questions that we don't know. We hope we're gonna try this drug on you and hope that you don't have a bad reaction. I mean, there
Yeah.
was that.
Yeah.
It was
And
shocking.
we hope it works too.
Yeah,
Oh, by the way,
exactly. Yeah, and
we
and
hope that the symptoms that you're going to get from the drug are going to be manageable because maybe they're going to take care of the other things, but you
yeah,
might die from those.
I had that said to me when the second chemo. I had 16 rounds of chemo, and the second 12-week weekly drug that I was um, having chemo infusions with, they gave me a double a dose of steroids before I started that drug because there's no test to see, because if I'm allergic to it, I'll die.
Wow.
And so what did I do? I was fine with the drug, but I got sick from the double dose of steroids. I mean,
Of course.
I laugh about this is not funny. I don't mean to make light of this, but the point in this is that as a result, I'm so um, divergent. I'm so unique. I'm so different. And my medical team couldn't get over the fact that I had this non-aggressive grade that was behaving aggressively. And all they knew to do, which is what everybody agreed with, was just to give her the nuclear bomb treatment, to give her everything, come close to feeling like she's going to die and wants to die, but that's what everybody recommended.
And through this process, it made you realize that there was a need on I'm going to say non-medical because
Mhm.
it's more mental,
Mhm.
right? There's a need for the support of because how your mental state is going to directly affect your body's ability to heal.
Absolutely. 100%. And that has been proven. And
Mhm.
so, and better research is coming out every day that shows that and it's not just during treatment, it's the first few years after treatment ends is so important for adhering to medication, doing follow-up testing if you have those, and just continuing to stay on top of this. And some really startling recent research is showing that there can be um, not very good consequences if you don't stay on that. And that can be people just want to be done with cancer. They don't want to take any more drugs. They don't want to go see these people. And it can have um, just not very good consequences. It's so sad, but it is so important to take care of those emotions. And again, we're talking anxiety, depression, distress are the three most common symptoms of trauma as it relates to cancer. But there are others. There's new mental health disorders that are triggered sometimes because of this experience too.
Once you were on the other side of your medical experience, how did you embark on this journey?
I actually started before treatment ended. And the reason that
Somehow that
what
doesn't surprise me.
I know, little underachiever here.
Yeah, right.
I needed something. I needed a life raft. I really was looking for something to get me out of my cancer funk.
Mhm.
And I just started to make phone calls and have meetings. This specialty that I founded, we announced it to the public 45 days after treatment ended. I mean, we got to work. We were working on it while
Wow.
I was still going through the last 5 months of treatment. And it was just and right away, there at the University of Denver at the Graduate School of Professional Psychology, we noticed that students that wanted to get into um, this is a PsyD degree, is what the
Mhm.
doctorate degree is called, they started applying to get into this school because of this specialty, this oncology
Wow.
psychology specialty. And I'm so honored that in the 11 years since, over 600 students have taken some of these classes that are now under the behavioral health specialty.
Wow.
And so there are practitioners of all master's levels, doctors, psychiatrists, psychologists, social workers. I'm doing a lot of work with social work now that do want to work with those that are impacted by cancer, and again, it's not just the person who's going through it, it's caregivers, it's family members, and then and because there just are unique aspects to this experience. And I love particularly the social workers because they are trained to be navigators of all kinds of things. That's just their approach, is to help, and that is so very much needed when it comes for me. I mean, the questions, the how do I organize, how expensive is this going to be? And sometimes there just aren't answers. I heard that a lot. We just don't know, and we won't know. Uh, this is everybody on the medical side agrees this is the best way to go, but we won't know until we're done whether it was effective. And that's just,
Right.
I think with technology continuing to improve, AI, if applied properly, the capability of future quantum computing, that could all be goodness, because that kind of horsepower computing capability is needed to be able to map out my DNA to know um, what's going to work, and you just don't know. So
Yeah.
it's still it's this. I wouldn't say it's a small part, and it's an important part, but there are research is showing that there are better outcomes when you do focus on the mental health when it comes to a cancer experience.
The other piece of the mental health that must be necessary is the mental health of the doctors
Oh,
going through this too, because y- yes, it's devastating for the patients as they're working through this, but the other challenge I would think would be there are the doctors that are actually having to give the message of we don't know,
right. Yeah.
or this should work.
Yeah, we hope so. Um,
Yeah.
and again, I would add to that's a brilliant and a very accurate observation. But there's also the concerns over liability
Right.
and them not be. I would just, I wouldn't say I, because I have a bizarre sense of humor. But I actually asked my oncologist once we finished. I was finished with treatment. I said, I'm a words person, so this really matters to me. But am I technically medically cured? And she said, Diane, calm down. She goes, you became a survivor the day you were diagnosed. I was like, okay. Um, but technically you're in remission. And that's all she would say. But I met and continue to meet plenty of people who are they use the term free of cancer. Cancer, I'm cured. And again, I can't comment on that because I'm not the smart person in the room, but that the way that we communicate about this can be very misleading. And so I'll just leave it at that. But that's just shows the
Mm.
complexity of this topic. And some people, friends that I have who've been through cancer experiences, I am never to even ever bring it up to them. They don't want to
No.
talk about cancer, and that's their choice, and that's fine. And so you have to I always have to kind of dip my toe in the water and see what the temperature is, because you can't assume everybody's experienced and processed cancer in the same way.
That's true. Very true. And because a lot of that comes from whatever their personal background or their exposure to anything, whether it was traumatic or non-traumatic throughout their lifehood, that would affect how they process their current situations.
Certainly, certainly. And I would add that I don't even focus on this is the proper way to process your trauma. I don't know that. It's all so specific to an individual. A lot has to do with you kind of reference this, the number of traumas that you've had. And sometimes for someone who's had a lot of trauma, this is particularly difficult because there's so many triggers now that come up, and it's just heartbreaking. But the way that our healthcare system works, the way that cancer care works, is the most efficient, sometimes economical way is to assume that we all should be treated the same way.
Mm.
And we just can't handle the complexities. The system, it wasn't designed for that, I should say.
So you launched the program,
Mm.
successfully launched the program. And how has that, when was that when it officially went into place, and how has that, what's been the butterfly effect of that, and how has the program evolved over time?
Yeah, thank you. The effect of that is more attention just being paid to this field of study, field of research, field of practice, there are more and more, and I'll say clinical psychologists that are focusing on just behavioral health. And because it's not just cancer that causes health related trauma, there's all kinds of other conditions, and they keep plenty busy. The ones that I know who do that are booked out months in advance. It's heartbreaking,
Mm.
but it's just an important note to your point. There are also some who are choosing to become social workers, which is fantastic because um, that doesn't require 4 years of study. If you're going for your licensed clinical social worker degree, uh, and you can get in front of clients sooner. Some choose that path because they just want to start helping sooner. One of the challenges I'm now starting to help address is what I call the next phase of this specialty, and it's called cope care. It's also at the University of Denver in their graduate school of social work, and so they are through the lens of health equity going to address in and pursue policy changes that start to introduce, and they're going out and grabbing all this important research that's been done, some of which has happened through this specialty that I founded, and are starting to work with state legislators to build, to introduce bills that could start to, for example, require that mental health services or a certain number be covered in certain states. It just depends on the situation, but we have so much good data now that it's time to start trying to bring everything together and to start to show and pursue that a change is needed when it comes to, and I'm talking about standardized cancer care, because many care centers now offer mental health support in whatever way that they can. But I'm talking about standard cancer care. So that is going to take a long time, but I think that's the logical next step because I believe, because it's been shown to be true, better medical outcomes are achieved, which could mean it's less expensive. It could mean a lot of positive things if we focus on this area of mental health.
Isn't it just incredible that, the whole butterfly effect piece, because you were sick, this all happened?
Yeah.
So impactful.
I do try to find one of my mantras is about, finding the good. There's an unlikely gift in every circumstance, right? You just got to find it and sometimes really search for it. When I was in the deepest, darkest days of treatment, spiraling into depression and thinking about maybe I should just quit chemotherapy early, because so many people had told me they had a loved one that stopped it early and they're fine.
Yeah.
And what I learned is that I mean, that's great, and that was their decision, and they have that right. The way that my track record was, I just didn't fit the parameters, and I didn't have a good feeling that if I made a decision like that, it was gonna have a good outcome.
Mhm.
And so I worked with a lot of engineers, a lot of data. I myself am not a numbers person, but I tried to think about this logically. And so I had the cancer gene test. I don't have any cancer genes, finding out now that that may or may not mean anything. But I took what data points I had and I just decided, okay, I think I have this feeling, and relying on that intuition that I think I need to do full on, because this is just behaving not just weirdly, but unpredictably. And
Mhm.
so I did that, and I'm glad I did that. But I'm also glad that, as you mentioned, I chose to channel this, and I was just determined to find some kind of meaning, some kind of life change from all of this. And it was the most afraid I've ever been. There's no cancer in my family. I didn't have really any experience with it. And oh, by the way, I was medically launched into menopause, chemically launched into menopause, and at the same time going through chemo and all of this treatment. And life was changing for me, and there was nothing I could do about it. So I just decided to figure out a way to embrace it, not be happy
Mhm.
about it, but to channel it into something that could help be impactful, have a more positive outcome for others, and to just be a catalyst and a voice and apply those skills that I had honed working for corporate America into bringing this message to more and more people. And that's what I've done.
And that brings that piece of control back to you.
Right. Exactly.
Mhm.
Exactly.
And for the greater good, as you put it.
Thank you.
Now, you also tell me about your books.
Thank you. Yeah, when I in 2015 when I was diagnosed, I was not on social media yet. I was too paranoid. So I was just sending email updates out to friends and family, and it was, I think, because of the way that I was trained, they found those to be particularly not just helpful but interesting. And so I kept sending out updates and I kept journaling, and a dear friend suggested that, maybe you should just turn this into a book.
Mm.
And I thought, there's so many books written. Nobody's going to want to hear my story. No, no, no. We really want to hear. You've done some really impactful things. You've also done some bizarre things and some dumb things, some funny things, actually. And they just love to hear these stories. So the first book that I wrote was called The Unlikely Gift of Breast Cancer. And it's about my year with breast cancer. And it's not a do this, don't do that book. It's actually the book that I wish that I had to read when I was speed reading all these breast cancer books. And it's just my story. And it has a lot of backstory. It's written in memoir style. And it talks about why the influences from childhood really impacted the way that I dealt with this. And there's some interesting stories. And then the second book that I wrote is called Heal Forward. It's this is that book. And those are my legs on the cover because I just got laid off from corporate America and I was really angry. So as I say, that was my way of giving corporate America the middle finger. But it's a compilation of other people's stories who've been through traumas in their lives and how they channeled um, those experiences into something impactful. And then the last book that just came out last year is called Unlikely Gifts Unwrapped, and it's the sequel to the first book, and it covers the 10 years after my cancer treatment ended, and again talked about my approach, how I rebuilt myself, transformed myself, started over, if you will, and channeled this whole experience into not just this specialty that I founded and what I'm doing now with my advocacy work, but how, in reflection, it really changed me. How
Mm.
I go into PTSD dreams, and COVID happened during that time. So, interesting, inspirational, but it's not a do this, don't do that, or it's just here's my story and how I dealt with it.
It's you are fortunate that you have the ability to put all of these feelings and thoughts and needs and wants into words just to get them out, but also to share with others as well.
Thank you. It's a unique combination. I agree, and uh, I feel so blessed in a way. And again, I don't wish cancer on anybody, but it was that experience that was considered treatable, but it allowed me to kind of finally everything came together, and I could apply everything from connections and wisdom and knowledge and writing skills to this one experience and really have powerful meaning and impact on myself. I am not at all the same person, and I like myself so much better now. Again, not because I went through cancer, but how I dealt with it. And
Mhm.
I think so much of who we are as individuals can have a lot to do with how you look at the unfortunate things that happen, the same problems or challenges we have over and over and over, and just deciding once and for all, I want to improve my life. I want to be full of joy and peace, and I'm going to
Mm.
stop, as someone told me, stop propping up the idiots and focus on yourself. And I really did that. And it was great. It was such great advice.
You mentioned advocacy work.
Hmm.
What are you doing
My
in addition to all the things
yeah,
we've already talked about?
I do continue. It's great, and I'm a self-published author. I have to own the rights. I have to be in control of the message. Not a surprise, probably.
Yeah.
But as a result, I've built this wonderful following, and so I still do a blog every other month, and then I do a newsletter, which is really the people version of our lives. I do that every other month as well, just as a way because people are interested in when I'm speaking, what I do, who I meet, and that ties into the other part of the active advocacy that I'm doing now, besides again guesting on wonderful podcasts
Mhm.
like this one and talking about this topic, is I'm back, and I mentioned the follow on, kind of the sequel to this specialty that I started in working with this Graduate School of Social Work at the University of Denver with their board of advisors. And so we are looking at, as I say, raising their reputational capital through funding, through getting the word out that social workers are so important for addressing societal disparities and challenges, and just teach people how to look at problems and challenges in a light that is more focused on problem solving and thinking comprehensively, and thinking that okay, all is not lost. It gives you hope. It gives you, um, I guess, affirmation that someone actually cares about
Mm,
something that's going on in your life that is really, really challenging and trying to bring you down. And how can we help
mm,
you with that? So, yeah, the social work, and then just continuing to do what I do. People ask if I'm going to write more books. I probably will, but I'm starting to get away from the whole cancer thing and focusing more on trauma. I'm probably going to write a book about funny and dysfunctional things that have happened to me, because I invested in startup companies there for a while after getting divorced and didn't know what to do with myself, and just and I don't make fun or get people in trouble. It's just really, to be an entrepreneur, to try to launch a business, so difficult and challenging. And I saw some really inspirational things. I saw some entrepreneurs do a lot of things right and a lot of things wrong. So it's
mhm,
just a recap of that.
mm. And it is the ups and the downs of whatever the project is the normal process of launching a project, and
Mhm.
it's never going to go correctly all the way every time, but being able to look back and have some humor in that, and also learn from those fluctuations
Yeah.
is really important to be able to do.
I thank you and for bringing that up. And I think I've gotten better at not being afraid of change, of being of like, oh, I've never done this before. I've gained confidence, and
Mhm.
again tapping into this wonderful network of friends and others. And it's not just taking, it's giving, it's reciprocating, it's being together and working together. Those life lessons, that's just so important to help us continue to respond to, deal with rapidly evolving world, and just technologically right now. I mean, it's incredible. And
Things are
um
moving so
oh
fast.
my gosh, and with
Mhm.
the work that you do, just financially, I mean, are we going to all have to work until we can no longer? Are we going to get to enjoy retirement? Those are questions that I'm asking.
Mhm.
And the people that I interact with is, how do you plan for the future now? I mean, it feels
Mhm.
like it's just changing so rapidly.
Everything does change, and the having the right resources and the right people to talk
Yeah.
to coach you through that, as in anything that you're going through, is so important, because even you can take this on the mental health side, whether it's finances or mental health or whatever it happens to be. The thoughts that you have within yourself, and the worry that you have within yourself, or the conversations that you have with your peers, are important, but they might be out of perspective.
Yeah.
The noise that we hear everywhere, whether it's in any subject, and having the the expert or the content expert to be able to regulate the noise and
Right.
apply it to your situation is so important.
Thank you. I do, just to kind of summarize that many readers, followers, friends, people that I've met that I don't know have just said, "Thank you for helping me feel like understood."
Mhm.
And because not a lot of people want to talk about cancer, especially after treatment has ended, and
Mm,
they, like, why do you still want to talk about? Well, because it's going to be with you for the rest of your life. There's just so much about this particular experience that is so unique. And
Mhm.
just to be able to recognize that, but yet to understand and sometimes people don't even want to bring it up because they don't want to hear a long time. It's like, oh, you're still dealing with cancer. Well, it has had quite an impact on me. And
Mhm.
I still go back and see my oncologist every year. I don't have to, but I choose to. It's just
Mhm.
important for me to keep it all in perspective. And I think a
Mhm.
healthier perspective I would like to think, but it's a big part of my life.
And what are the next steps for you? Where are things moving in what direction?
Yeah. I a clearer direction. I am working. I'm in a year of enlightenment is what I'm calling this year. Is I'm taking time to update a lot of my personal business stuff that I've done that I need to either wrap up. Just everything needs to be put in its place. um, Legal documents need to be updated. I'm taking time to do that. So once this year is finished, I'm going to get back into creative mode. I mentioned this
Mhm.
book that so many people have asked me to write. They really want to see what I have to say. I don't mean to humiliate anyone. It's just some of this stuff is
But hang
pretty
on.
funny. I grew up in a town of 80 people in central Nebraska with a 75-year-old woman for a kindergarten teacher that was born in 1895. Yeah, there's some stories there. And I just want to go back and capture that, not so people have this biography of who I am, but some of this stuff is just people do find interesting apparently.
There's
And
a
I
lightness to that as
yeah,
well.
exactly. So just to celebrate at least to this point some of the unique experiences I've had, which unfortunately includes cancer. But again, if channeled in a healthy way, processed, um, good things can come of it, and
Mm.
it's not guaranteed. It just was really what it taught me was the importance of remaining in touch, being in tune, communicating with people who understand and are empathetic to what I'm going through is so
Mm.
important.
Mm. That's amazing. And so Diane, how do people get in touch with you?
The best way is through my website, which is dianemsimard.com. You can contact me that way. There's more information about my advocacy work. Can purchase the books through my website, and I'm just going to continue to put myself out there for anybody that wants to talk about this topic. I just so appreciate you reaching out to me and
Mm.
inviting me on because this is something that has gotten more attention, and I believe and hope will continue to get more attention. A lot of wonderful people, each contributing their part. And I think it's time now to start to take all that good work and start to memorialize that and to show that when it comes to cancer, there's so much cancer. And more younger people are getting diagnosed with cancer
Mhm.
that we need to look at the way that we treat this particular health condition and to start thinking about I wouldn't just call it life after cancer, but there's a lot of that trauma that can impact a person's ability to have longevity, to be able to process trauma in the future and not be haunted by these triggers of, such a frightening experience.
Mm. I want to thank you so much, and I don't know that I can put it into enough words to express my respect for everything that you have accomplished post cancer treatment and how it will continue to affect others in such an amazing way. You have a gift.
Thank you so much. I do sincerely appreciate that. And I have to always remind myself that, you know, all the moments when I really doubted myself and I faced a couple moments of mortality that I write about
Mm.
in my books. And it was important for me I don't wish that on anybody, but it was kind of what I needed. It was the open your eyes. Maybe I have a voice that I'm not using and channeling properly,
Mm.
and I need to do that. And so what more goodness can I help bring into the world? Because Lord knows we could sure use a lot of that. And that's my driver now.
Mhm. Okay. Well, Diane, thank you. Thank you so much for your
My
time,
pleasure.
and I appreciate your work.
Thank you so much for having me on.
Thank you so much for listening today. Today's show is sponsored by Seaside Solutions, my financial services company. As a business owner, It's easy to be pulled in many different directions, and often taking care of yourself plummets to the bottom of the list. For me, I find myself outside to reground. My time outdoors helps me manage my day more effectively and be more present for my clients. Through this, Discover Rising Tides was born. At Seaside Solutions, we truly believe that education is the foundation of financial wellness. Our primary focus is to provide guidance that is designed to help you achieve your long-term financial goals and visions. Working with a plan allows space for doing more things that you love, like being outside to make the inside better. If I can help you create or realign your plan, or if you would like to be added to my weekly newsletter, please let me know. This week's topic was 5 ways to set more achievable goals. Your referral means the big, beautiful world to me, and if I can help, please let me know. And thank you so much for listening, and see you next time.